Greetings and welcome to the pod. My name is Mark West. Craig Clark is an Australian surf lifesaving champion who has had a dream of swimming the English Channel since watching Des Renford in the 1970s. He had a slot booked for this year, and then COVID-19 hit. Undeterred, not wanting to waste the training, and to raise money for Beyond Blue, Craig developed the 36-kilometre Coles to Newcastle ocean swim on the Australian east coast, a swim leg that has never been attempted before. The 36-kilometre course dates back over 100 years to when coal ships loaded at Catherine Hill Bay Jetty, where the swim started, and transported coal into Newcastle Harbour past Nobby's Lighthouse, which was the finishing point for the swim. It also has a great deal of personal significance to Craig as a coal miner, with Newcastle being Craig's hometown and Swansea Belmont Surf Lifesaving Club his club. Craig also raised an astonishing $32,000 for Beyond Blue, and the swim took 12 hours, getting in just before nightfall. I started my chat with Craig by asking him if he had always loved swimming in the ocean.
Yeah, very much so. I sort of started out in the surf club as a nipper with Swansea Belmont in Newcastle, and that's a club that I've always been in. And swum through nippers right through the into the seniors as well, and regularly sort of for probably 20 over 20 years competed at state and Australian titles. Certainly in the swimming side of things. When it came to the surf, I was sort of belt swimming to start with, and then went into the team R&R event, rescue and resuscitation, and really enjoyed doing that with a great bunch of guys and coached there over a lot of years.
And so when did you start to specialise in ocean swimming? Or is this more of a recent thing? I mean, I guess with the surf background, that was the initial thing, and the nature of both my physical build and my stroke sort of became sort of better suited to swimming in the ocean, the rougher waters. So then I progressed. I sort of kicked off doing a lot of the local ocean swims, probably going back 15, 20 years ago. The 2K distance swims. There's a couple of good annual swims that ran for a long time here, and as well as the across the lake swim that the surf club run, and then there was a Caves Beach one as well as a great one that's run annually here from Nobby's to Newcastle. So kicked off doing them for a while, and then developed, went a bit further, went to some of the big ones in Sydney and the big one up at Byron Bay as well. So had been doing a lot of those ocean swims sort of annually for probably 15 to 20 years. Certainly as far as the ocean goes, a pretty solid background. That's a pretty big jump from 2Ks through to 36Ks from the Coles to Newcastle swim. That must have been a lot of training. And I know you were thinking about the English Channel. What crystallised that in your thought? When did you decide that you're going to go really hit the long distance stuff?
It was to prepare for it. I'd done a little bit of homework. My interest in it sort of stemmed from my much younger years, teenage years as a swimmer. I did quite a bit of pool swimming as well, but I was always fascinated by the feats of Des Renford, which were sort of well sort of publicised at those times, and particularly his English Channel and his English Channel exploits, where he obviously crossed it 19 times, but over a 10-year span. But it was a combination of that unique style of swimming, the image of the grease all over him, and just the concept of swimming from country to country, of England to France, that sort of fascinated me back then, and sort of stayed in the back of my mind, and was really, when you, I guess, as you go along in sort of swimming to achieve a lot of goals that you go, whether it's in still water, in the surf, or in the ocean. I'm sort of somebody who always likes to sort of look forward and have a good or new goal to aim for. And going back, it was sort of 5 years ago that I decided, right, the next big thing, I'm now ready to do ready and want to tackle the English Channel. And that was where the whole thinking and preparation process started, which was initially in testing myself out, because as you just said, stepping up from 2-3 kilometres up to something over 30 and introducing cold water were two new things, irrespective of how long my swimming background was. So they were things that before I made any final commitment to it, I wanted to test myself out. So for the first winter after that, I threw myself in cold water to make sure I thought I'd be okay in it, and then just gradually sort of increased my exposure time in it. But when I actually committed to doing the swim in 2017, I at that stage hadn't swum any more than about an hour in about 16 degrees. That was about my longest duration, coldest swim I'd done prior to doing it. But it backed my, I guess, mentally in terms of making that transition and talking to a number of previous people who'd previously swum the English Channel, and sort of got a feel for the nature of the preparation, and that hugely lifted my motivation for doing it, and then kicked off the preparation in earnest as soon as I got my slot locked in for 2020.
And you hooked up with Trent Grimsby, who's kind of a modern-day Des Redford, isn't he? I think he's the quickest across the channel at the moment. Yes,
he is. He had an incredibly fast swim. I think it was back in 2012, thereabouts. Trent, as soon as I was travelling a bit between Wollongong and Newcastle, where I was sort of working and where home was. So in wanting to sort of do that unique preparation, I sort of made contact with Trent, and sort of straight away he was the ideal person, and we spoke at length about how it would work in a remote coaching sense, and he was a perfect coach for me in preparing me for what I needed to do on a weekly basis, all the way through.
And so you were booked in for 2020, your 2020 vision of the English Channel. You were booked in, and then COVID came around, which obviously meant that we couldn't get anywhere. What made you think of swimming to Newcastle?
Yes, it was Catherine Hill Bay. It was kicked off at the. So the other thing about me personally, apart from Newcastle, I've got a long coal mining history. I've always, from when I left school, I'm a mining engineer, and have always worked in the underground coal industry, and so I sort of made it a real. I'm somebody who likes to be motivated for a number of different things. So I wanted to really personalise this swim for me. So I deliberately chose Catherine Hill Bay as a starting point because it's got a coal jetty that comes out off the southern end of the beach that's been used. It's no longer in operational use, but it was up until around about 10 years ago, and it's got over 100 years of history. And so there was a regular coal ship that called the Wallara that travelled from Catherine Hill Bay into the harbour of Newcastle. So with the help of Google Maps and working out the distance being very similar, near identical to the English Channel, just the whole story then of calling it the Coals to Newcastle swim, just coining that phrase for the purpose of the swim and the
the whole sort of even personal motivation and personal history linked to it. Just really added to the whole whole motivation of the swim, as well as in the preparation and coining it as giving the swim an actual name.
And it was colder than the English Channel, right? Like a couple of degrees colder, probably.
Yeah, it was. During the winter, the last sort of probably three odd years, 3 to 4 years, the water in the English Channel has got a little bit warmer, and it's sort of in the time that I was going to swim, which was late July into the start of August. I was the water temperature there was 18 degrees, but at the end of August here, along the Newcastle sort of ocean, the temperature was 16 degrees, and the weekend before the swim, we had this unique weather system called the Antarctic blob that hit us, and that nudged a little bit more off the ocean temperature as well. Just the weekend before.
It looked pretty rough, like just sort of off the coast there. It looked like you were swimming in rough waves the whole time, and you did a part of it with one arm. Like, did you injure your arm along the way?
Yeah, what happened was the first part of the course the headlands were the real big challenge with the whole swim that made it fairly unique in its challenge, because what happens off the headlands, particularly the biggest one was the Redhead Bluff. As the tide and the swell hits off it really, you're swimming in really turbulent water that wants to throw you from side to side and a little bit into you, and you're really sort of struggling to move forward. So I was travelling really well from Catherine Hill Bay right through to Redhead, which was around about 21 kilometres of the course that was done, and because I had what was known as a 9-mile beach stretch between Blacksmiths and Redhead, and it was sort of protected by the two headlands in between. It was actually like a really smooth part of the course, and I was feeling great in getting to Redhead, and that was almost right on midday. So covered sort of well over half the course by midday. But then came Redhead Bluff, and that's where the real tough conditions hit. And in relation to my shoulder or my arm, I knew, and it's been something that I had to manage for a number of years, particularly with sort of as swimming volume picks up. I've got a twice dislocated right shoulder, and to punch through the chop, you just have to change your stroke. Instead of stretching out, which I'm really comfortable doing, you have to shorten your stroke and punch through this chop. And in going along Redhead Bluff, there was just short of 4 kilometres. It took me all of 2 hours to get through, which was like less than half the rate I'd done up until then. In doing that and punching through, shoulder really, really sort of gave way to some extent. So I wasn't literally swimming with one arm, but I was only pulling with one arm. I still had it going around, but I had a fair bit of soreness and pretty much very little strength in it. Did sort of on a drinks break a little bit further along, I had a couple of Panadol to help relieve it, and that but for a period of about an hour around that. Yeah, I was definitely only getting a pull with my left arm, not my right.
Wow. How did you pull up afterwards? Are you okay now?
For 3 to 4 days after, I was very sore, and as far as that right shoulder goes, I thought I'd done a real lot of damage to it. So pretty much couldn't raise it above the horizontal at all, my right arm, and a real lot of soreness. But I got a little bit of some good treatment on it sort of a week after the swim, and then very lightly came back to swimming. And thankfully, I'm confident that I've fully recovered and haven't done any further damage to the shoulder.
Do you have motivation to do it again? Do the same course, do it in reverse, turn it into an event or anything like that? Or are you done with this swim now?
I think it's one of those things where I really just wanted it as a one-off personally. In choosing to head in a northerly direction, that certainly added a lot to the challenge of the swim. And that was for two reasons. One was that the predominant winds were certainly northerly. So even though on the day, thankfully, and that was why I swam it on the day that I did, we did have a light southerly running certainly for all the morning. It swung around to the north in the afternoon, but that was sort of the only thing that you had to have that in your going for you to do that swim. But the other key thing is the East Coast current runs in a southerly direction. So as you come past these headlands and you're trying to the further you get out to sea, the more you're going to get away from the impact of the tide and the swell coming off the headlands. But then you're putting yourself into the teeth of the south running current. So it's almost like which is the lesser of the two evils. The swim would definitely be much more comfortable and easier heading south rather than north. But coming back to what we were talking about earlier, the Coles to Newcastle sort of concept, I was desperate to hang on to and really wanted to head in that direction.
This must have taken a bit of a support team to help you out here.
Yeah, and it was really good how quickly that came together too, because first of all, for the English Channel, which was always planned to happen, a couple of key people originally who were involved in the support, who were my twin sister Michelle, was always coming over with me, and her husband Mick. They were always part of the whole preparation for the English Channel. So they were when this happened, when obviously we then weren't going. They were the sort of key first people who were always going to be involved, because Michelle, I'd done a fair bit of work on my nutrition, so she was going to be the one who was going to manage that. Apart from somebody who I'm very close to and know well, she was the one who copped plenty of my frustration coming out of my mouth during the swim as well, particularly from redhead through to novice. And she certainly knew how to handle it best as well. So she was a critical person on the crew. In a lot of my preparation again for the channel, it's really important when you swim in the ocean, because you're generally not going to be swimming with another swimmer. When you do long swims, a kayak paddle is critical to your preparation. And I had a long-term friend linked with our boys' sport locally, Paul Hunter, who paddled alongside me on a lot of my longer swims out in the ocean, and we certainly took on some pretty tough conditions as well. So because he had spent so much time alongside me watching me swim, his role was hugely important over the duration of the swim as well. And then I had my uncle and my cousin, so it was very much a family-based thing, who provided the boat, and we did. And we all really only got together because the whole thing was only really born sort of 2.5 months or 3 months before it actually happened. So in testing out the course, understanding how things were potentially going to play out on the day, doing trial runs with the boat, getting the boat ready. They all committed a lot of their time in the 3 months towards it, and were a huge help, and they definitely made it all happen. That's for sure.
Are you still keen on the English Channel? Do you keep your spot in future years, or have you got to start this process again? Because I understand it's not easy to get a slot at the English Channel.
No, it is. It's pretty much a 3-year wait, which means you've got to do a lot of sort of life planning for that, and commit yourself to it. So what I did manage to do only after I'd done the Coles to Newcastle swim was managed to secure a transfer of my spot from this year into 2022. So, which I'm determined I will do and will happen. So in July 2022, I've got big plans. Obviously, COVID allowing, to head back on a postponed mission to swim to France.
Fantastic. Do you think that'll be your next big swim, or have you got a big one in mind for next year as part of the build-up?
I guess with COVID, it's hard to cement in anything that involves sort of international travel, especially. A couple of other swims I've potentially got in mind, and I've got further down the track an even bigger plan for the English Channel. But because that's really the one that I'm sort of hugely motivated by, and definitely want to go and do it at least once. And the other big swim, purely by its rough nature, which I really like as well, that I've got in mind, but I've just got to wait and see sort of obviously how things play out, is the Cook Strait between North and South Island. Really keen to do that one too. And as much, it's shorter in distance than the English Channel or the Coles to Newcastle, but as I'm sure you can imagine, the wind is almost certain to blow, and it's the rough nature of that makes that adds to that challenge, and the fact that it is obviously at our part of the world is definitely one that I'm keen to do at some time as well.
I think we've got a travel bubble with New Zealand now, don't we? So you might be lucky. You might be lucky. There aren't many swims like that. Yeah. Well, I don't know any swims like that in Australia. I guess you could swim to Rottnest, but it's nowhere near as bumpy.
Yeah, I mean there are a number of different swims around Australia. I guess in preparing for the English Channel, and this was a big thing why I was determined to do something of a big nature and also for charity as well. When the preparation was already done, because it was over such a long period of time, I knew I was ready. I really didn't want to just let all that preparation just amount to nothing. So that's why I just sort of put the thinking cap on and came up with this local Newcastle concept that obviously had some personal history linked to it as well. Really gave me something to aim for, head for, and grab the support crew, and they were 100% behind it. The different parties that then came on board to help out on the day with a couple of sponsors, and the Lake Macquarie Council lifeguards who did a brilliant job with jet skis alongside me as well. They were keeping an eye on the marine hazards for us during the swim, and were ready to, if something happened to me, they were right to sort of jump in and take over straight away. It was a really good plan that they jumped on board and helped put together, so that everybody involved in the swim, obviously me included, was comfortable with what we were doing. And in swimming in those oceans and as far out as we did around Moon Island without a shark cage was, obviously had a fair element of risk, and plenty of people thought I was legitimately mad for even thinking about doing it. But it was done with both a combination of testing it all out and with a lot of thought behind it too.
Have you seen many sharks in your various training swims off the coast up there?
No, I haven't. I may have seen one. It's one of them ones when you see something that resembles it, you like to think it's the one with the longer pointy nose rather than than anything. Certainly, lots and lots of dolphins, a number of other ones, but the sharks, thankfully, I don't see. I run with the theory that helps, because a lot of the swimming, a lot of the preparations on the shorter distance, I do go out in the ocean on my own, which isn't something that's always recommended, and not many people would do that. But it's the only way you can do that is to overcome any fear of sharks. And I just had a theory that by not swimming in a wetsuit and keeping on moving and swimming at the wise times of the day, that the probabilities were very low. I knew that they weren't zero, of course, but I guess I tried to do as many smart things as I could to minimise the risk.
And you mentioned the charity before. You raised an awful lot for Beyond Blue. $32,000 was the last time I checked it. That's incredible. What motivated you to swim for Beyond Blue?
Well, Beyond Blue, it's first of all, in terms of mental health, there'd been a number of things that I'd been personally close to. There was it probably initially triggered off with a couple of sort of family history sort of matters involving mental health issues that have been I was very close with and managed. I went through a couple of fairly minor things involving anxiety myself in earlier years. And there was a significant incident from my work history when I was working in Wollongong, where very suddenly lost a close workmate to suicide unexpectedly. And it's one of them things that when something like that happens, you automatically question yourself in terms of what you could have done, what you could have seen, what you could have said, and all that sort of thing. And I certainly got in contact with Beyond Blue at that time, and I found them incredibly helpful and supportive, and a really good service. They certainly sort of understand the situations and helped just sort of get your own mind back on obviously not blaming or thinking what else you could have done. And I just thought that they were a great service great to obviously really essential service in the community, and thrown on with everything that was happening with COVID and so many people losing work and lives changing. I just thought that they were this year more so than ever like the charity to do fundraising for. So in terms of choosing them, it was a very easy decision for me. And along the way of the fundraising, I was in contact with them regularly, and they were extremely supportive as well. And a really nice thing after, where in terms of a presentation wasn't possible because of COVID, but the CEO Georgie Harmon put together a really touching personal video of appreciation, which was really made all that worthwhile as well. It was very, very nice.
Oh, fantastic! Congratulations! It's a great cause, and you've done amazing things. You were on the front page of the papers up there as well, and on the news, so quite a lot of exposure. How did you like that? You sound like an unassuming sort of guy.
Well, it was seriously totally unexpected. It was when I first came down here and said about it, and even from the fundraising point of view, my original target, I'm thinking, I know I've been sort of most of my life has been spent living in Newcastle. I know a lot of people. I'm thinking that there might be a little bit of interest. I'd be happy if I could raise $3,000. That was my original target. When I first in
posted up that and it was on Facebook about the story that, as I said, I'd sort of pieced together based on a lot about own personal history linked to the swim, and obviously the very unique nature of the swim, and linked to not being able to do the English Channel. The reaction was incredible straight away, and when a couple of people from the media found out, sort of heard about it, they really loved the story, and the guys from obviously the main ones were NBN Television, Newcastle Herald, and ABC Radio. All got behind it like well before the swim. They were aware of it about sort of in early July, and they had sort of stories with each of them to start with, and then they were really keen following it up. And when sort of knew the swim was on, the coverage that they put behind it was incredible. It blew me away. A lot of it I had no idea what was happening or how it was going to play out. And all of that played a huge part in the fundraising as well, because obviously that exposure went out particularly all around Newcastle, and the vast majority of people who donated were people who saw that and left really touching messages of inspiration and how impressed they were and how important the cause was. And it certainly made it all worthwhile for me. It was very touching.
It's a nice thing to kind of rally around at the moment as well, with job losses and lockdowns and all the rest of it. Wouldn't have been easy up in Newcastle, I don't imagine. So that's a great community event, really.
It is, and as far as a sort of patriotic town goes, I think there's few that are bigger than Newcastle in terms of really getting behind local things and local people, irrespective of whether it's sort of sport business or whatever. So, and this is just yet another example of it. And I guess if in the tough year that everybody's had in trying to adjust to this hopefully shortish term new world we're in, to have something to take their minds away from it at that time, and provide something of a good news nature on it, and to be able to be part of that was I guess one of them things, a combination of timing in lots of ways, but certainly definitely gave me a huge lift, both in leading up to it and afterwards as well. Sort of very, very touched by the reaction.
And how do you feel in the water? Do you sort of get into the zone and time passes by in a strange way, or does it hurt every stroke? How do you feel, or how did you feel during swimming for so long?
It's one of these things in my preparation. I did a fairly unique thing, even for English Channel, that not a lot of people do. I exclusively swam in salt water for 2 years. I never got in chlorine. There is a difference between swimming in chlorine and salt water, and it's not until you probably expose yourself a lot to salt water that a swimmer realises it, and it's all to do with buoyancy and the impact of salt water and how much higher you sit in the water. It might only be millimetres, but it makes a big difference. And for me, with the shoulder injury that I mentioned before, it actually made a big difference. It allowed me to largely remain uninjured during my preparation, and so in terms of the mindset that I had while I was swimming, I first of all got a massive love for swimming in the ocean. So it was almost like it was a place of peace, if you like, a place of comfort, and a place that I love being in. So it wasn't something that I was concerned about, stressed about, even in terms of marine life. It was just something I was really comfortable being in. In terms of over the distance and how I think of it, I do it a fair bit of the time, think about how I'm travelling in my stroke. I definitely get into a pace rhythm and a stroke rhythm, which is a lot easier to do in calmer waters. and that's why, in terms of when the headlands and high tide impacts kicked in changing the stroke, it did make a physical difference to me, as well as obviously added to the duration of the swim. But that's then where your mental strength just has to kick in, and certainly support crew help you with that. There was lots of funny things that happened between that we can laugh about now. It wasn't so funny at the time, but fortunately, the support crew who knew me really well knew exactly how to handle it, and there was plenty of words that don't normally come out of my mouth, especially to my sister, coming out in frustration. But and the other interesting thing about it on the day too, I was really one of the big things about, and it's an English Channel and a well-known thing to do, you do not want to try to finish in the dark. Right. It's a big mental hurdle to get over. And in leading up to it, and because of the doubt about the conditions, I'd spoken at length to my coach, Trent, I mentioned before, Trent Grimsey, about the duration of the swim, the risk involved at the time, what we needed to do to make sure I finished during the, finished in with some light at least. And Trent sort of had suggested and thought I should start at 4 in the morning instead of 6, which in hindsight, I especially now, and I could understand his reasoning. And in hindsight, it probably would have been a smarter thing to do. But in the end, it almost ended like so. As these tough conditions came in the second half, I'm breathing to the left or looking towards the west, and seeing the sun very quickly disappearing, and knowing that I've got a distance to go. And this actually became the biggest mental hurdle for me to get over, was getting there before that the light disappeared altogether. And it was, I felt as if I was charmed or blessed that when sort of finally tackled, it sort of came onto Nobby's Beach with sort of less than 5 minutes of light. The sun had set with, about 5 minutes of the last light left before it ended up pitch black.
How are you supposed to swim in the dark? Do you aim for a light in the distance, or do you rely on your guides to help you along?
Well, that was the concern, because we were so far out to sea. It would have been a real challenge taking on around that Nobby's Headland and then trying to sort of find your way between the reefs, because the boats couldn't come in with me because there was quite a decent swell on that day too. There was a good sort of 6-foot wave that was breaking 500 metres out coming onto Nobby's that day.
Oh, wow.
So neither the boat or the jet ski could come in with me. So I had to negotiate it on my own. But the sponsor the main sponsor I had for the swim, which was Nepean Longwall, they'd set up we'd spoken about it before, and they had a light set up from the shore for me to head into, and thank goodness that was sort of we had that set up. So that at least gave me a landmark to clearly head for, no matter how dark it was. But there was still a matter of sort of negotiating coming around the heads in as straight a line as possible. And as the light was fading and the boat and the jet ski couldn't really see that either, I wouldn't have wanted to be like even 15 minutes later than what I was.
Wow, good timing. Just what you need at the end of a swim. Even more anxiety when you're exhausted.
Yeah, exactly. And again, in coming in the waves, a couple of people, because of my surfing background, and there was a nice wave rolling in, it was sort of almost after a spectacular finish of riding a wave from 300 metres out or something like that. But even my mindset at that stage was I knew what shape my body was in. The last thing I wanted to do was go down a wave and it end badly. So I did what I would never normally do, and that was let a nice wave that I otherwise would always catch go past me, and then try to swim between the broken waves.
Wow.
It's,
Okay.
that was the last piece of coming in on the day.
At least,
And thank goodness there was just that last little bit of light left before it turned dark.
at least you had the presence of mind to do that. So you're obviously very fit mentally and physically for this. Like you weren't falling over at the end, which was good.
No, well, I was so determined, and really a lot of the support that I had leading into it, both from the fundraising point of view and definitely the media as well. Really, but also my own mindset. It never entered my head I wasn't going to swim onto Nobbies, even during the tougher stages of, with the headland issues and how late the day was getting. I was always determined to get there. However, and I know how much I mentally lifted when the last sort of whiteboard sign that came up to me was the turn pointing left, and that was like a massive lift. And I was like, hallelujah, here we go, we're going in, or I'm heading in, and then. And at that stage, I still wasn't sure what the swell was like, but I was only, by this stage was over 500 metres out to sea, and was coming in when a wave that I could have almost ridden from there, like just went past me. That made me realise we had a decent swell running, and then straight away I sort of thought about how I wanted to come in, and it was more about body preservation and not coming unstuck at the very last part of the swim.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And what's next for the rest of the year? Like you mentioned, you had a swim this morning. Is that a regular routine? Are you aiming for something this year, or just getting back into swimming? What are you thinking?
Yeah, all I'm doing this year, because as I mentioned before, my next big goal will definitely be the English Channel 2022. Unless there's something that I can do next year, but I'm just looking for 1 year of just coming back, probably just cutting back the training a bit, and just doing a couple of shorter distance events again. Just through a bunch of friends of my partner, where I'm actually going to do it in a team at the Port Macquarie Triathlon or Ironman Triathlon. Just going to do a swim lead there.
Cool.
So that's a nice little thing. I may do a couple of ocean swims leading up. At the moment it's hard to tell what's going to be on and what isn't. But that alone is enough to give me something to aim for. That's not until the first weekend in May, and then I'll. So it's a nice little thing to know that I'm preparing for, and I'll actually race in. So I'm sort of, my preparation is now coming back to the shorter distance things just for this year. But pretty much straight after that, as winter starts to kick in next year, assuming 2022 is my next big target for the channel, I'll definitely jump back in and kick off the preparation next winter, and start that build up again from straight after Port Macquarie.
How many Ks do you swim a week, and what did you get up to when you were preparing for Coles to Newcastle?
Yeah, for the Coles to Newcastle, as I was coming in, I was swimming sort of just over 100 kilometres a month, sort of spread over a bit of a variable sort of week. Generally, just a lot of the weeks were over 30k, and then a shorter week. And that was for probably the 6 months building leading into it, and again a real mix of what was for me ocean bars or out in the ocean swimming. I had a huge personal preference for swimming in the ocean, which I didn't even, for me it wasn't even training. It was just enjoyment, and I always look forward to. I mean, I enjoy swimming in any case. With a massive passion in salt water, but the ocean in particular, just love being out there. So I regarded that as just having fun with that, with those sessions, and the longer ones I enjoyed, obviously working on the nutrition and sort of the balance of both the frequency and the type of nutrition to have, and getting that right, and working with a good team of dietitians, also based out of Queensland as well, and just fine tuning that to get that all right for the big day, for the big swim.
Yeah, well, how much did you eat? Because you must be burning calories like crazy, but you also, long distance cold water swimming is something where you actually want a little bit of extra weight. You must have eaten a lot.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I'm pretty good on the tooth, so I can eat. If part of my preparation involves eating food, that's the easy.
Then you're good.
That's not a problem at all. Because you're right. In terms of swimming in cold water, the only natural insulation you've got is what you put on your own body. So it was a challenge for a while in both swimming them sort of kilometres and putting on weight. But I did in the end put on 8 kilos for over what my normal sort of swimming weight would be, specifically for long distance in cold water, and that again was I believe turned out to be the right balance, because to do that and still have the endurance and fitness to do it, it is a fine line. You've got to sort of get it right, and there's no two people the same. So fortunately, that I think got the balance sort of right for that, and now I'm in the interesting challenge of trying to get back to my previous weight, and for shorter distance stuff, but it's and reducing my appetite again.
Well, I mean, the images of you online, you looked strong, like that classic kind of swimmer's build of big chest, and then sort of skinnier down below. You looked strong, so obviously it worked for you. Yeah,
I mean, I guess fortunately, sort of naturally, both in my swimming and physically, it's my upper body strength that does it for me. So that certainly helped, and as a matter of where you sort of put on the weight, I know don't get much choice. It goes where it goes. It sort of fortunately sort of did work out fairly well for me, and actually it was really interesting and very, very flattering for me as well. I got a phone call after the swim from Michael Renford, or Murph, as he's well known, who's Des Renford's son. And one of the first very flattering things he said from the images he saw, he thought it looked exactly like his dad coming out of the water.
Oh, that must have been a thrill if he was your hero growing up.
Oh, exactly. And the other interesting, and again, it wasn't as if it was done deliberately from my point of view. I've seen a number of videos of Dev swimming, and our swimming style likeness is uncanny as well. So maybe there's some sort of an ideal combination there, but certainly his story and everything about what he achieved was always captured in my mind from a young age, and it was always something at the right stage of my sort of swimming as well as personal life, when things were set up to do that I knew I always wanted to do, for me, watching him was hugely an inspiration. So that was like an incredibly nice personal touch at the end of it all for me too.
Oh, fantastic.
My heart grew light, and this whole world seemed new to me. You're really swell,
in doing something like that in a unique nature, it was like the unexpected support that you get from the community, and it's sort of nice. I'm even like go to places and I recognise where I never was before. So the way that the media captured it, the way that the local community captured it, and the other key thing is the support people who allowed it to happen, and the passion that they had to get behind it and support me. They certainly put their lives on hold and made themselves available for me for a good sort of 3 months leading into it. I can't thank them enough. And for anybody looking at taking on any sort of marathon swimming, which I couldn't recommend higher. I couldn't sort of advise enough to get yourself a rock solid support crew, because you definitely can't do it on your own.
And they should go have a look at your Facebook page, I guess. I think that's how I found you.
Yeah, well, it's and I've been contacted by a couple of different people and sort of squads and everything that I've sort of gone and had a chat with after since it all happened as well. So they're sort of really nice things that have come out of it. It's something I'm certainly personally proud of, that sort of achieved in the unique nature of it, and that's a lot of reasons why I'm happy to break the mould at one, almost like the Crocodile Dundee movies. You should have only done one of them, but I just, even though I guess there's a potential to try to turn it into an annual thing. Or even myself go and do it again. I'm just really, I couldn't be happier with how the whole thing went, and just from my personal point of view, just sort of happy to redirect my sort of focus or goals back to the big thing that got me there in the first place, which was the English Channel, which I've still got a big desire to do. And I do like to coin a phrase, and for me, it's my date with Dover that I do still want to meet, and I still see that as many others do, the holy grail of marathon swimming.
And you swim from Dover to Calais, right? You're going that way, not the other way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting now. The French won't let you start from their land, and when you do swim on there, you've got to get off very quickly too. There's strict rules that have to be followed. So, you won't get through a bottle of French champagne on the land before you've got to leave. But it's the whole history of it. It's the challenge of it. And in that particular body of water that still very much inspires me to definitely want to do it.
Yeah, I hope Brexit doesn't stuff up the chances. First COVID, then Brexit, if they don't let you into their waters or something.
Yeah. Oh, look, they do let you land on their beach, or whichever part of the land you do come on. So some people finish on rocks, because you've actually got to step onto the land to be ratified as crossing the channel. It's you don't just touch a wall and that's okay. You've actually got to step onto land. So if you happen to land on one of the rock faces along that French coastline, well, you've got to get up on it.
Yep.
So that's very tidal how you finish. They're incredibly strong tides. That adds to that challenge. In part, they obviously assist you swimming, but in terms of when the tide obviously forces you to swim in a different direction, but in terms of particularly landing onto one of the beaches, sort of, or Cap de Gris is the point of France that everybody likes to try to finish on because it's the shortest distance. It's a matter of sort of perfectly judging your swim with the tides.
Do you have a pilot lined up already, or is that something that you can work out a bit closer to the date?
Yeah, no, I had the pilot sorted out for this year, and that same pilot I've got sort of rescheduled all for 2022. So my spot has been transferred to a slightly different time in the channel swimming season, which is obviously only fairly short. It's only sort of 2.5 to 3 months of the year that you can possibly swim it, and a fair chunk of that is impacted by weather as well. So it's well known as a waiting game, even when you've got a spot booked. So whereas this one was end of July, early August, had it been this year, it's the very start of July in 2022.
Wow, that's really exciting. Oh, what a great thing to look forward to. I look forward to. I'm sure you'll set up Facebook pages and whatnot for it. So I look forward to following it. I think it'll be cool.
Yeah, I will do, and it's no, as I said, it's where I sort of still see that unfulfilled dream, even though this was something I'm very proud of for doing and achieving. And the support that I got behind both the fundraising and the swim blew my mind. It's far greater than I ever expected. And as I said, can't sort of extend my appreciation enough for all those who sent messages and donated.
I'd like to say thank you so much to Craig Clark for taking so much time to chat to me about his astonishing swim, the Coles to Newcastle 36-kilometre ocean swim along the east coast near Newcastle. And congratulations again for raising $32,000 for Beyond Blue. If you'd like any more information on anything you've heard in this episode, from links to Craig's Facebook page or links to the music that was used, get over to the website at www.thepodpodcast.net. That's www.thepodpodcast.net. And if you feel like rating the podcast in whatever service you use, that'd be pretty cool too. My name's Mark West. Thanks very much. I'll catch you next time on The Pod.